You walk into your bathroom every morning, turn on the light, and look in the mirror. You adjust your hair. You check your eyes. You know your own face as well as you know your own name. You have seen it in photographs, in storefront windows, in the black reflection of your phone screen. You take this for granted. But here is a question almost no one thinks to ask. What did a human being do before any of that existed? We are going back 100,000 years, 200,000 years, back before glass, before polished bronze, before the concept of a portrait. Did your ancestors have any idea what they looked like? The answer changes everything we think we know about identity, self-awareness, and what it actually means to be a person. For a long time, the assumption was simple. They looked into water, a quiet stream, a still pond, a puddle after the rain. The story goes that ancient humans saw their reflection in nature and understood themselves just like we do. But that assumption turns out to be wrong. Very wrong. Think about the reality of the ancient world. Water is rarely perfectly still. A breeze, a current, a single drop of rain, and the image shatters. Even at its best, a water reflection is dark, distorted, and fleeting. It does not give you a true face. It gives you a shadow. For the vast majority of human history, your ancestors lived their entire lives without ever seeing a clear, static image of their own features. Try to imagine that. You know the exact shape of your hands. You know the scars on your knees. You know your arms and your legs because you can look down and see them. But your face, the most expressive part of your body, the thing that communicates fear, anger, joy, and love, belonged exclusively to everyone else. You were completely blind to it. So how did they know who they were? If they couldn't see themselves, did they lack a sense of self? In 1902, the sociologist Charles Cooley introduced a concept called the looking glass self. He argued that human beings do not develop an identity in isolation. We develop it based on how others react to us. This wasn't just a psychological theory. For ancient humans, it was biological reality. When an ancient hunter sat around a fire 80,000 years ago, he didn't need a mirror to know what he looked like. He looked at the people across from him. If he smiled, their eyes softened. If he showed fear, their postures tensed. If he was sick, he saw the worry written on his mother's face. They didn't see their reflection in glass. They saw their reflection in the tribe. This sounds poetic. It isn't. It is a profound evolutionary survival mechanism. Because you couldn't see your own face, you were forced to lock eyes with your community. You had to study their micro-expressions. You had to become a master of reading other people because their reactions were the only mirror you had. Empathy wasn't just a moral choice. It was the only way to know yourself. But there is another piece to this puzzle, and it happens entirely inside the brain. Neurologists study a phenomenon called proprioception. It is your brain's ability to know where your body is in space, even with your eyes closed. Touch your nose right now without looking. You didn't need a mirror to do it. Your brain has a perfect, invisible, three-dimensional map of your entire physical form. Ancient humans possessed a staggeringly acute sense of proprioception. A human tracking a mammoth across an open steppe didn't need to see his face to feel the wind against his cheeks. He didn't need to see his brow furrow to feel the concentration in his muscles. His identity wasn't visual. It was kinetic. It was grounded in feeling, in movement, in the raw sensation of being alive in a dangerous world. They didn't know what they looked like. They knew what they felt like. But here is where everything changes. Around 8,000 years ago, in a settlement called Çatalhöyük in modern-day Turkey, someone did something that had never been done before. They took a piece of obsidian, black volcanic glass, and they began to polish it. They rubbed it with sand and water, hour after hour, day after day, until the surface became flawlessly smooth. When they finally held it up, they didn't see a dark, rippling shadow. They saw a face, staring back, unmoving, clear, permanent. That piece of polished obsidian is the oldest known mirror in human history, and it sparked a cognitive revolution that we are still dealing with today. For the first time, a human being could look at themselves without needing another person in the room. They could study their own wrinkles. They could practice an expression. They could obsess over a flaw. The mirror didn't just reflect the face, it invented vanity. It invented self-consciousness. It took the concept of identity, which had always belonged to the community, and trapped it inside a piece of stone. By the time the ancient Egyptians were casting bronze mirrors, and the Romans were backing glass with lead, the transition was complete. Humanity had fallen in love with its own image. We have spent the last few thousand years perfecting that image. Today you carry a digital mirror in your pocket. You can take a photo of yourself, apply a filter, and instantly broadcast it to millions of strangers. We have never had more tools to see ourselves. But here is the part nobody talks about. When you spend your entire life looking at your own reflection, you stop looking at the people around you. Modern psychology has documented a massive rise in body dysmorphia, anxiety, and isolation. We are the most self-documented generation in the history of the planet, and yet we have never felt more disconnected from who we actually are. Your ancestors didn't have mirrors. They didn't know the exact slope of their nose or the symmetry of their jawline. They didn't know and they didn't care, because they understood something that we have completely forgotten. Your face is a tool of connection. It is a biological instrument designed to broadcast your internal state to the people you love, to build trust, to signal danger, to share joy. It was a gift you gave to the world, not an image you hoarded for yourself. So tomorrow morning, when you walk into the bathroom and turn on the light, look in the mirror, but just for a second, then put the phone down, walk out the door, and look at someone else. Because if you really want to know who you are, you won't find it in the glass. You will find it in the way the world looks back at you.